Cleveland City Council President Blaine Griffin to the show to give us a little update on the Browns Stadium saga and the latest on that. How you doing, Councilman? Appreciate you joining us today on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
I'm doing good. How you guys doing today?
Great. Hey, we're great. Blaine, great to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, there's so many questions about the Cleveland Stadium issue. I think what I want you to do, there's so much I don't want to say misconception, but break down for the layman fan what's going on behind the scenes. And when I say that, obviously the city wants the Browns to stay downtown. I believe now the county wants the Browns to stay downtown. It feels like Browns ownership wants to take them to Brook Park and build Jimmy World. Is that accurate to start off with, at least?
It's close to being accurate. Let me say this to you. There's still a lot of conversations happening, and I will tell you that in having conversations with the Browns leadership team, they're still researching parallel paths. Clearly, they would like to go to Brook Park, and I think the beautiful renderings that they showed and everything actually, is a testament to that. And listen, I understand these guys want a legacy project. They, are two wealthy people who want to leave their legacy and their footprint. And I'm glad that they want to do it in Northeast Ohio. We just want to make sure that people understand the amount of commitment, time, and investment it took to build up our central business district and what a blow it would be to our central business district.
Councilman, what do you say to the folks that say, the renovation of the stadium, when the stadium came here, when they got here in 1999, it was not a state-of-the-art. And a new lease on an already outdated stadium isn't a good financial investment in terms of renovating a stadium that was never really truly a state-of-the-art type facility compared to some of the other ones.
Well, you got to remember and put it in context that we were really in a fight to hurry up and get a team. And the NFL had us on a pretty aggressive time clock, which is why former Mayor Mike White really worked hard to really try to hurry up and get this stadium up and running. I believe that there is a way to extend the life of the present stadium until we really figure out how we want to move forward. And that's something that I'm just hoping that we could do. I know that the Browns have a sense of urgency. We have a sense of urgency. We want to put this to bed. However, I do believe that back in the day that they really should have cluster built around Gateway, where we would have had more opportunity to have, revive that part of town. And then we could have opened up our lakefront and riverfront for other, very exciting development. So I think that if we would have had the time and really been able to put the planning into this, that we probably could have done it a little bit better. But I don't second guess actions of the council and the mayors that were doing this at the time, because they were in a very rushed effort to hurry up and get this done so that we could save our team.
Council, when you look at the money that the city is willing to put in for this stadium, I mean, personally, I'm sure I'm not in the minority where I think that Jimmy Haslam should pay for wherever he goes. He should pay for it all himself. He's a billionaire. The city is got a ton of poor people. It's pretty disgusting to think any money would go to help a billionaire and not to the people who need the money. But I know that, unfortunately, that's not how it works in our society these days. But that money that, if they stay in the city, and I can't remember the exact amount of money that the mayor talked about, how much the city would put into that, but where does that money come from?
A lot of it will come from sin tax. Some of it will come from admissions tax, and some of it will come from parking revenue, which is one of the things that we as a council are going to have to deliberate. We want to understand, where do we make the money? One of the things that I always appreciate about David Gilbert and the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission and Destination Cleveland is that he could literally show you the breakdown per every event, how much money the city received in income tax and other fees. Unfortunately, that's been an elusive number to get from our Cleveland teams because of proprietary information and other things. But I'm really working with him and others to really try to understand the financial impact, because where we gain money and where we build are able to pay for city services, or when we actually are able to have those restaurants and actually have the income taxes of those players. So there's some revenue stream that the general public does not see that pays for those dreaded potholes. And last I checked, Republicans nor Democrats like potholes. It pays for police officers, it pays for streets. So that's how you generate revenue for a city, which is one of the things that I'm really holding everybody accountable to, is what will we lose revenue wise if we lose this asset to the downtown central business district. That's something that, we may not be able to recover from for 15, 20 years. And I don't know where you guys be, but I hope I'll be somewhere having a cocktail on the beach in Florida.
I do want to drill down on that more, because when people ask me, like fans will ask me, well, what do you think about the new stadium? I'm always like, I don't know how to answer, because I don't know what the ramifications are personally. How would I know what the ramifications are for the city? I'm like, well, it's only, there's not a lot of events there, right? It's not like baseball or basketball where there's 40 or 80 games or more potentially. With the football, it's only 8, maybe 10 games with the preseason, possibly a playoff game every 2-3 decades or so. But how, like, what is the real numbers there with obviously not the exact dollar, but how much for the people who would say, well, how bad can it hurt the city? It's only 10 events. You could do other things with the land, maybe turn it into housing, or I don't know. What would you say to that?
Well, that's the reason why we want to really make sure that we understand the impact and the economic impact. This isn't just about feeling good, even though, I believe it would be a hurt to the morale of the central business district if we did lose the team from the downtown central business district. But when people come, they're actually staying for the weekends. I think the last time I checked, 80% of the people that come to the games are people that come to the region from other areas, or from as far as Youngstown, Medina, and some of those places that they actually come up to Cleveland and they spend money. They spend money in restaurants. And if you talk to some of those small business owners and some of those restaurants and some of those hotels, they'll tell you that those 10 to 12 events a year may make up approximately 2/3 of their revenue. It's like I serve an area called Little Italy. I would tell you, without the Feast of the Assumption, that most of those businesses over there will go under. And you could say that's only one day a year, but that's a huge business day that actually pays for almost 6 months worth of revenue for some of these businesses. So I don't want to underscore, just because it's a small amount of games there, how much it means to the downtown central business district, because there's other residual dollars that we receive when those things happen.
Councilman Griffin, I'm not sure if you know the answer to this question, but it seems as though the Browns have sort of run in, and I don't want to call it a brick wall, but the city and the county seem to be aligned on what they want moving forward. And now it seems as though they've turned their attention to the state, hoping to get state money to perhaps fill in the blanks from what they're willing to pay to build that stadium in Brook Park. Do we know what that number is, what they would need from the state in order to go ahead with this project in Brook Park? And also, if you could, are they likely to get that number?
Well, it's a $1.2 billion proposition. And if they were originally asking for the city and county and state to come up with half of that, that would still be on the table. And I will tell you that the county has made it clear that they do not feel that they have the capacity, nor do they believe it is a good use of taxpayer dollars to back the bonds for Brook Park, which means that the state would have to back all of this financing, because the city's not going to put dollars into it. And let's face it, the sin tax would have to actually get state approval in order to be increased, in order to bring in more sin tax money. So these are complicated fiscal deals. And from what I'm hearing at the state level, and I thought it was a great article in the Cleveland.com yesterday, is that there may not be an appetite to do it here. You also got to do it in Cincinnati and some of these other places that want heavy investments in public financing and stadiums. And let me just tell you this as well. The last 10 stadium deals, and you asked the question earlier about if a person can buy it. Well, Los Angeles and SoFi was built all by itself.
Yeah,
exactly. And then by the owner. And then let me give you some more information that I just learned this week, which is very, very interesting. That for the first time, the NFL is going to allow private investment and private equity in some of these teams, which is going to be interesting because that's how they used to keep a tight knit with the owners. And now it looks like they're trying to open up other avenues of financing, which hopefully that can help bring more private equity into these kind of deals. It's a complicated deals. And so I'm not the main person at the table negotiating them. Eventually, it has to come to Cleveland City Council. So I really try to work hard with the administration in understanding the nuances of this. And you're right. Whenever you have the two leaders at the top, from the county executive and the mayor, and the two council presidents from the county council and me, all basically saying, "Hey, we like it in the central business district," then that's something that it'd be, I would think that the Haslam family and their leadership team would love to have a conversation about. And I will tell you this, I'm one that believes in regional collaboration. And there's some things that I've mentioned in the past, and the Brook Park mayor doesn't believe that that's the path that they want to go, and I respect that. But if they did want to go to Brook Park and they wanted the city to be a part of it, then I'm always willing to talk. However, I think that the best investment would be downtown in the central business district.
Well, Councilman, one of the things that I've hear all the time is, I'm from, Canton. I've been in Cleveland, I want to say about 12 or 13 years now. And one of the things that I've been hearing since I even got here was the renovation of the lakefront. We've heard about it through different cycles. We've heard about it through different leadership groups. And it just seems to be like it hasn't really, came into fruition. Do you believe that if the city had invested or continue or would have an initiative and a concrete plan to revitalize the lakefront, like in some of the other places like Chicago, and do some things like that and try to do something with the airport, that would be more of an enticing thing to keep the Cleveland Browns? Because maybe from the Browns' perspective, they believe that they are, how would I say it, they're the only thing keeping people around. Maybe they want to partner with the city and making sure that both ends play their role in keeping and making sure that people do want to come downtown.
So let me say this. I think that was part of the rub, that eventually, if you remember, the Haslam Sports Group wanted to have the land bridge to connect public square to the lake. And I know that eventually everybody pushed it off to the administration, but the original plan was for them to actually have that area developed and built out and have offices and housing and everything else. I truly believe they might have run into some issues. I'm not privy to this, so I can't guarantee this, but I know the past, whenever there was talk about development in that area, FAA really had a lot of issues, which means that we also need to determine the future of Burke. Which that was actually something that I thought might be a good location to consider building a stadium as well. So there's other complications, but to me, from what I'm hearing from all sides, the biggest rub is parking revenue. And I don't know if you looked at like Jerry World down in Dallas, or you looked at Kansas City, and they have these rows and rows and hundreds of rows of parking. That's heavy revenue. And that's revenue that will probably be about $50 to $80 a car, not to mention the experience that people will have if they were able to get the Brook Park site. So I think a lot of this is that they're landlocked downtown and they won't be able to get the parking revenue that they really would like to get. Now, once again, these are just things that I'm hearing. I am not in the day-to-day negotiations. I've offered where we stand as council, and when it comes to us, because we don't negotiate the deal, we just basically, analyze it once it's brought to us to make sure that it's the best deal for the taxpayers and move forward.
Councilman, last thing before we let you go, you mentioned there briefly, maybe building a stadium at Burke. It seems like the best compromise, I guess, would, yes, a new stadium, but do it in Cleveland proper and not in Brook Park. Why? It seems like that's not being considered here. Why do you think that is?
Well, I'm not sure what their acreage of land that they need. I think that the biggest issue that they've had is that they just don't see the land compilation in Cleveland. And one of the challenges that you always have in Cleveland is that you have many parcels, and it's hard to put the acres that you need. Hence why we weren't able to land some of the big projects like Intel and other things, because they go to these places like Columbus that still have wide swaths of country land, and they can basically build land cheap. But if any example of how that doesn't work in isolation is Richfield Stadium. that's the reason why they moved back downtown, so that they can have more vibrancy. And when people come, they can get the game day experience as well as the downtown experience of Cleveland. And I would tell you that, I don't know if you've been to Severance or if you've been to some of these suburban locations, even beautiful Crocker Park. We don't need another Legacy Village or Crocker Park at this time. I mean, I just don't know how that works. So at the end of the day, my common sense tells me that a lot of this is about how they want to build more parking revenue. And like I said, I'm glad that they want to stay in the region. I do happen to get along with the Haslams as well as their leadership team. I just believe that the best place is downtown. But if they're resolute to go to Brook Park, council is ready to have a conversation and see where we go.
All right, very interesting stuff.
That's fair.
City Council President Blaine Griffin. Blaine, thank you very much, and best of luck from your angle on the city and keeping this thing downtown. I know that's a great interest to the city.
Thank you. And tell my man I actually went to college at Malone in Canton, so it's hard to
shout out to Malone.
and married a girl from Canton. So Canton is
330.
330.
Very nice.
Good to see you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.